How goes the family? Welcome back to Layers Anything Goes. Hopefully you guys are having an awesome day. Today's topic I'm going to be talking about the place that I came from, the DMV area, Washington D.C., Maryland, Northern Virginia, metropolitan areas, and it's basically this discussion we're going to get into today is in regards to an article I read last week about, which was a very big surprise, Washington D.C. metropolitan area has one of the most expensive commuting areas in the entire country. Now, most of the times when you're thinking about expensive areas in the country, and especially expensive commuting areas, most of the times you're thinking of San Francisco, New York City, areas like that. But the article that I read the other day, it was very interesting, and it was on Bloomberg article. It stated that most live within the 65 miles of the Washington D.C. Metropolitan area. So 65 miles, of course, commuting back and forth every day, that's a lot, and it's a trip. It really is. And it just, like, I even heard, the article didn't mention this, but I remember knowing some people that actually lived in West Virginia and lived in Pennsylvania, and they commute on the borderlines, but of borderlines with Virginia and on the borderlines with Maryland, but they were commuting to parts of Maryland, or a lot of them times they were commuting to Washington D.C. or parts of Northern Virginia. I mean, when I was in Northern Virginia, I remember this one guy, he lived in Pennsylvania on the borderline with Maryland, and he would drive to Bristol City, which is in Northern Virginia. It's right across the river from Washington D.C. every day, back and forth. It was just a normal thing. He's been doing it for like 15 years, and I was just like, wow, you drive through an entire state to get to work every day. It just boggled my mind, but it's just normal. Like, I think even one guy from Delaware I met one time drove from Delaware to Northern Virginia every day. I mean, that's a lot. But some people do it, West Virginia, Northern Virginia every day, or to Washington D.C. every day. That's just a lot. And to me, I give a lot of credit where credit is due to a lot of people, but that would just suck the life out of me, pure blank and simple. But that's just my personal opinion. But anyways, I digress. The U.S. Census Bureau confirmed that people in the DMV area spent 388 hours, or just 2.5 weeks on average, traveling to and from work in 2017. And it's crazy how I never thought about how much money they spend, commuting back and forth every year. It's just like those numbers is like with that amount of time and money that just it could be put into so many other things, but that's just my personal opinion. But I get it. People have to get back and forth to work, so I totally get it. It's just crazy, now. So, there's your different aspects of areas, and obviously you see the numbers, how, we are more, we're just not that much more than New York City, but we're still more than New York City, when it comes to how much money and time people spend on the road, and the amount of money that they spend commuting back and forth. You think New York City, because I remember meeting a guy that I used to work with. He was from Southern New Jersey, and he was telling me it's just normal for half of the people in Southern New Jersey to get on and take the train to New York City to go to work every day. Either take the train to go to Newark and New York, and it would take between an hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours a day, but it was just a way of life, But I never would have thought that Washington, D.C. would beat out New York City. It's crazy, right? Goes to show, no matter how expensive a city is, it's still overpopulated, and there's still people commuting back and forth. So obviously there's something about that city that people want to be there. So that's why I never knock any place anybody ever wants to be. If it makes you happy, if it makes your family happy, go for it. Because that's what we're living for, right? To be happy, marry, and all that great stuff, So anyways, I digress. Back to the subject at hand, as they say. So on the Maryland side, you have people commuting from Charles County, up here. I always love to have my visuals ready. Charles County in Southern Maryland, and as you can see, the arrows pointing in those specific parts of Maryland. And as you can see, the Potomac River, how it separates Virginia and Maryland, and all that good stuff. But Maryland is definitely connected to Washington, D.C. As you can see, the distance is, it's nothing to laugh about, and kind of crazy at times when you really analyze it. So that's where, you got those people commuting there back and forth every day, not knocking it, just talking about specific facts. Like I said, it's your life, it makes you happy, that's all that matters. And then you come to the side where I grew up on, which is Northern Virginia, which called DMV, D for D.C, M is for Maryland, V is for Virginia. So on the side that I grew up on, Northern Virginia side of the Potomac River, the article really talked about specific areas like Fauquier County, Stafford County. I grew up in Prince William County, but that's considered quote unquote expensive now, which still makes me laugh to this day. But I get it when you make the comparisons to Fauquier County and Stafford County. More people that I even went to school with, if they're not moving south or west or to the Midwest, they're moving to Stafford County and Fredericksburg and Spotsylvania, which is, nothing wrong with that. But obviously you can see the distances and whatnot between the different counties. I grew up in Woodbridge, as you see right there, but then you've got Fauquier County, which is highlighted, which is west of where I grew up at. And then you go south where you see Stafford County, Fredericksburg, and just south of Fredericksburg is Spotsylvania. So it's just a normal way of life. I remember I knew a guy who lived in Spotsylvania County, and he would commute to he commuted to Bethesda or Suitland, Maryland every day. Like, it's just, and as you can see up there, you can see on the map for yourself, it's just like, it's crazy, but people do it. It's become a way of life for a lot of people. Like, I know a lot of people that live in West Virginia. I've heard of, I don't know them. I've heard of a lot of people living in West Virginia, but they work in little border areas such as Reston, Herndon, or Loudoun County. So it's like, it's an hour drive, but it's not that much traffic, and them commuting back and forth to those areas is, it's not that bad as them trying to go to DC every day and whatnot. So it's all good. Hey, like I said, if it works for you, it works for you. I don't knock it. I always just say, just don't knock what I like, and I won't knock what you like. But anyways, I digress. Back to the subject at hand. I talk about the area I grew up in, so I could go off on a tangent for hours on this, and we don't have that much time. So let's just stick to the plan, as they say. So and a lot of people live their lives revolved around traffic in these areas, and that's the sad thing. And it's a way of life in all metropolitan areas, but it's really most of your week is just consistently between work and commuting and then getting home, and then not much of a social life. And I always say that a lot of this contributes to the uptightness of this area, but I'll leave it at that. The amount of time, especially the amount of money spent commuting, definitely adds up to the uptightness of the DMV population. A lot of these people who commute from these areas, they do it based on factors such as, and this is what the article states, they do it based on factors such that it's easier to have higher income jobs when you work in DC, which is true, that's where the money's at. Or areas such as Arlington County, City of Alexandria, and Fairfax County. That's where the bread and butter is at, for the most part. So, it's just one of those is what it is situations. But anyways, and I get it. It's like, you got to go where the jobs are, you got to go where the money's at, because obviously a lot of people here, that's the downside is a lot of people here, they make the good money, but then they're broke half the time, or they're barely skating by half the time because they put that money into things that aren't really profitable, in my personal opinion. But that's just me. Not really too big on, saving as much money or obtaining a lot of investments and things of that nature. So it's crazy. And sorry about that. I'm getting all these messages for no reason. But anyways, stick to the story at hand. And another thing that comes with this also is that the cost of living is cheaper in Fauquier County, Stafford County, Charles County, and Southern Maryland, and Spotsylvania. The cost of living is cheaper. A lot of people live in King George, which is west of Fredericksburg. A lot of people are moving to Warrenton. So Warrenton's in Fauquier County. So it's like, just people they're moving where they can afford to live, and they're moving to where they want to live. So it is what it is. That's just the world we live in. And especially those who want to live in the large homes with the 5 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, and the picket fence and the yards, or acres of land, and all that good stuff. Most of the jobs are in Northern Virginia, but a lot of people want to live the lifestyles of Spotsylvania, Fredericksburg, and Stafford. And those areas are considered to be more affordable nowadays. So, and I always consider that to be, like the beginning of Central Virginia, in my personal opinion. So you have Central Virginians commuting to Northern Virginia for the jobs. So that's just what it is. And I get it, And the article also states that a lot of people would obviously like to live closer to where their jobs are, but most can't afford it. And I totally get that as well. They can't afford it. And instead of paying high rents or even higher mortgages, most people about the same time, they'd rather spend the same amount of time commuting instead of paying extra amount of money. So say, great example, if they're paying $300,000 to $400,000 for a house now, then if they the same kind of house with less land, and if they gotta try to get one in Alexandria, Arlington, or whatever, or Fairfax County, most likely they'd have to pay $1 million or $700,000 to $800,000. The prices are very expensive. So I totally get it for working people. It's just not feasible. It's not really sound. And most people want to be homeowners because obviously there's more power in home ownership than there is in renting. But then there's some people that beg to differ and say, hey, I like renting, but I like owning property in various areas, but I'm not big on owning the house that I live in. So it varies. Everybody has their own little thing. Me, I'd rather own the house I live in, but that's just a personal thing with me. Do real estate investments, that's a personal thing with me. But everybody's different in how they want to live their life. You know what I mean? Like me, I'm not the biggest fan. I grew up in the DMV, but I'm ready to move on and all that good stuff. I'm a West Coast kind of guy, and I just leave it at that. It's like you can't argue with palm trees and mountains and sandy beaches. So that's the lifestyle for me. But I digress. So back to the article. So instead of paying the high rents, people rather have a mortgage, which makes more sense. And interesting enough, workers in New York City, New Jersey, and San Francisco, they prefer having longer commutes over higher rents and mortgages too. So it's just become a lifestyle in a lot of metropolitan areas. I totally get it. Not really for me, but it's like I totally get it. I don't want to spend an hour to 2 hours on the road or on a train, but that's just me. It's like if it's more than 45 minutes, it's too far. That's my mindset. It's like I like being able to get home at a reasonable hour and not live most of my day at my job or on a train or sitting in traffic. That's just not for me. To each his own. The article stated, and I knew this, but most people from the DMV area know this as well. But if you're a person that is watching this and you're not from the DMV area, or you're thinking about moving to the DMV area, it's just something to consider. Hey, it's like the first time I went to Seattle, I watched a video from a local from Seattle, and I got their perspective, and I loved it. So it's always nice to just get different perspectives. Arlington County, where Amazon is planning to open their East Coast headquarters, is ranked the lowest among 14, which is very, very interesting. 14 of the largest counties in the DMV area for people to live in. So most people that you see in Arlington, they don't live there anymore. They just work there. So it's ranked very low. Even though I know a lot of people still live there in Arlington, but the people with people with families and things of that nature, they want to live in the suburbs, and I totally get it. It's like me, I could be happy. I love being in the city, and I don't mind being in the suburbs. It's like one of the goals is for me is to get like a little house / studio house in the city, preferably Los Angeles. Because you just get the taste of that city life and just be able to walk around and just be able to go to shops and engage with people and network with people and all that good stuff instead of just talking about normal stuff. But that's another story for another day. But to me, that was very interesting. Very, very interesting. I did not even realize that. I'm from the DMV, so from home to work, local residents spend more than 30 minutes commuting a day. That's just become the norm. I remember reading an article like probably 10 years ago. The guy had the longest commute in the country. I think he commuted like 100 miles to 150 miles a day. And he was perfectly content because he loved living in that little small town he lived in. I'm not mad at him. Most salaries that people make working in Arlington stem from between $85,000 to $150,000 a year. And a lot of times even more. That's the incentive for people to want to work there. I totally get it. One thing that's making life better for the DMV area and other metropolitan areas is the gig economy. That, and I don't think they talk about that enough. Meaning that more and more technological advances are allowing more people to work from home, which saves companies and workers a lot of money and time, and people who are doing Airbnb, Uber, and Lyft. And I think that's a great thing all at the same time as well. It's like just being traditional with the traditional job thing is not become the most popular thing on the planet. And most people are trying to work hard, especially millennials and younger people, to have an untraditional lifestyle. And I'm all for it. High five to you. Peace, hands up, thumbs up, the whole nine. Keep going for it. Keep pursuing your dreams, because That's what it's all about. Do not let anybody tell you what you can or cannot do. It's up to you, and it's up to your mindset and the people that you're around. That's always been my mindset. So when you look at these other areas around the country, like obviously the Bay Area is one of the most expensive areas, but they still don't beat Washington D.C. when it comes to the amount of money people spend commuting throughout the country. So they're almost at $20,000. We're at 20. I even heard something, $30,000 a year. People spend that much money commuting back and forth between D.C. and Northern Virginia. It's insane, but that's just where we're at right now. And will it change anytime soon? Who knows? But this is what life is in the DMV, and this is a picture of people getting off the metro and getting on the metro. And I remember those days. I don't miss it. I'd like, thank you Uber and Lyft, because of you guys, whenever I have to go into DC, I can avoid this madness and just take an Uber or Lyft into the city. So much better, much more pleasant, clean, comfortable, the whole nine. So I leave it at that. But that's it. That if you guys check out the article, most expensive cities in the country to commute in, the DMV is #1 on the list. And I was very surprised myself. But anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Please comment, like, share, subscribe, all that great stuff. And if you found value in the video, and especially if you're thinking of moving to the DMV, don't do it. No, I'm just kidding. If your heart's set on coming to the DMV, it's actually a great place to live. I grew up there, so I can't knock it because it made me the person who I am today. So if you're thinking of moving to the DMV, just have your money together, have a real detailed plan, and if you plan on staying here, then try to do the money numbers in regards to retirement and what you're going to need, and et cetera and so forth. If you're just coming here for a second, ensure that your job doesn't keep you. If you're just working a job, ensure that your job does not keep you stagnated to where it can keep you centralized and trapped to where you can't get out. Because a lot of jobs anywhere is keep you like that, because that's what essentially a job is. It helps you survive and get by, but you getting financially ahead, it's not in your best interest, because then obviously you can leave and do something different. So have a detailed plan, read as much as you can, watch as much YouTube videos as you can, because it's always in your best interest. Like I said, your dreams, goals, and aspirations, go forward, do your thing. Don't let nobody stop you. Haters are gonna hate, and all you can do is appreciate every day that you're alive. And on that, I'm gonna have to say goodbye.